I'm Kirk Smith from Intel Corporation. I'm co-chair of the Technology Working Group along with Dennis Brandel. And I'm here to talk about parts 1 through 4 in the 5 minutes I have allotted. So we'll move fairly quickly here with just a few slides. And you can see parts 5, 6, and 7, right, will be discussed with the other chairs as well. So one of the interesting things about creating an interoperability and portability standard for industrial control systems is you need to understand what an application is. So the new thing, right, that I think that version 2 brings is really an understanding or a stake in the ground of what an application is. So if you were in any of the meetings we've had in the last year, if you ask 5 people what an application is, you're going to get 5 different answers, right? So many discussions around in the ecosystem for suppliers, how one man's floor is another man's ceiling, et cetera, right? But the key thing is that we've aligned on the definition of what an application is to guide our work as we develop systems that are interoperable and portable. And version 2 focuses on configuration portability, where version 3 will address application portability. So you can see that the layer F applications, and they're labeled FILO after kind of a phyllo model, right? If you're a chef and you like pastries, you understand the thin layering, right? That those things, that cooking method creates. One of the few times I think I've seen a standing ovation for a proposal in standards body after much discussion. So layer F applications include function blocks, alarm applications, 1131 programs, the 1499 programs that we all know about in the control world. It includes basic configuration and exchange models. And then layer I, starts to address, the engineering runtimes and those other components, right? So the things that make the layer F applications execute. And then layer I applications, typically the platform independent components that are compiled to binary formats, et cetera. And then layer O applications would be down at the operating system level, right, and below. So as you talk about IT/OT transformation and the separation of software from hardware, you really need to tease this apart. And so I think the group's done a really good job of separating this out. So part 2 is really focused on security. And while part 1 was informative in nature, version 1 was informative in nature. Version 2 is focused on actually getting to security level 2 ultimately, but not covering everything initially. So you can see the bubble diagram on the right-hand side of the slide talks about, we have elements of 62443 4-2 described in an appendix in sufficient detail, but it doesn't require everything that 4-2 currently states, right? So I think the important thing to know there is we've working on arrangements with ISA Secure, where they'll provide OPAF certification for security for components that are brought to market from a certification and conformance viewpoint. And then parts 3 and 4. Part 3 is informative. It's focused on defining a set of profiles across parts 1 through 7, such that you can take the defined profiles and actually create a system, right, from that. So I think in future versions, you'll see recommendations and guides on how to use those, right, to develop a next generation control system. Part 4 is focused on communication management and networking interfaces and their associated formats. Version 2 brings import-export formats and upload formats to the standard for layer F applications, and covers those configurations based on things like automation ML and the information exchange models that you hear my colleagues talk about. The dark blue interfaces that you see in the diagram are specified in parts 4, 5, 6, and 7. And the red interfaces and their nesting relationships are planned for future versions.